My mother-in-law said, "Oops, habit." When she brought a cake with my husband's ex's name on it to my birthday, I honestly don't know if I'm looking for advice or just need to scream into the void, but I'm at my breaking point. I need an outside perspective because I feel like I'm going crazy. So, for context, it's me, 32F, my husband Mauricio, 34M, and his mother, my Mill, Teresa, 60s. We live in the Valle de los Chilos, just outside of Quito. It's supposed to be peaceful here. You can see the Cotopaxi volcano on a clear day, and the air feels cleaner than in the city. Mauricio and I bought our house here 2 years ago, and it was meant to be our sanctuary, the place where we could finally just be us. A fresh start, you know? On the surface, my relationship with my MIL is fine. It's polite. We do the whole family thing, Sunday lunches where the conversation is as bland as unseasoned rice, polite smiles at holidays, the occasional text message about a sale at the supermarket. She'll compliment my garden, but then look at the flowers like they've personally offended her. It's a performance, and we both know the script. I've always felt like I'm on probation, like I have to constantly prove I'm worthy of being her son's wife. There's this invisible wall between us, and behind it, I can just feel her judging every single thing I do. The real problem, the one that's been eating away at me for years, isn't really about me or her. It's about the ghost in our house. Her name is Veronica. Veronica is Mauricio's ex-girlfriend. They were together for a long time, all through university, before he and I ever met. He's told me it ended because they just grew into different people, no big drama. He barely ever mentions her. But for Teresa, Veronica is practically a saint. She's not just a memory. She's an active, breathing presence that my MIL insists on keeping alive in our lives. It's not just nostalgia. It's a deliberate, constant campaign. It's like Mauricio's relationship with Veronica is this sacred, leather-bound novel that she keeps on a pedestal, rereading her favorite chapters out loud whenever I'm in the room. And our marriage? It feels like a footnote scribbled in the margins. Every little thing is a comparison. If I cook something, she'll say, "This is nice, dear," but Veronica had this special way of making lapingachos that Mauricio just adored. If we talk about a vacation spot, it's, "Oh, Mauricio and Veronica went there once. She took the most beautiful photos." The name just hangs in the air, this heavy, suffocating perfume I can't get out of my house. And every time she says it, she gets this little smile on her face, like she's sharing a secret that I'll never be a part of. It makes my stomach clench. It makes me feel like an intruder in my own life. For a long time, I just swallowed it, because what can you even say to that? But it just kept getting worse. It's not just the things she says out loud. Honestly, I could almost handle that. It's the constant, quiet little things. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Each one on its own seems too small to make a fuss about, but after years of this, I feel like I'm bleeding out. And every time I try to put a bandage on one cut, she makes another one somewhere else. A few years ago, I went to tag her in a family photo on Facebook. I remember I was sitting on our couch. The afternoon sun was coming through the window, and I was feeling pretty good. I clicked on her profile, and my stomach just dropped. Her main profile picture was normal enough, just her and Mauricio. But as I scrolled down, I found it. An entire photo album, public for the world to see, titled Memorias. Memories. It was filled with pictures of Mauricio and Veronica. At the beach, at family gatherings, Christmas photos where she's wearing a sweater that matches the family's. They looked happy. And I get it, that was his life before me. But Teresa was still actively commenting on them. On a picture of them from 8 years ago, she had commented just last month, "Que lindos. I remember this beautiful day," with a bunch of heart emojis. My cheeks felt hot. It was like reading someone's diary, but it was on display for everyone. I felt this weird mix of shame and rage. I showed Mauricio, my finger trembling a little as I pointed to the screen. He just sighed. That deep, tired sigh he does when he doesn't want a confrontation. Mi amor, you know how Mom is," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "She lives in the past. Just ignore it. It doesn't mean anything." But it did mean something. It meant the ghost had a digital shrine, and my Mill was the head priestess, tending to it daily. Then there was the recipe folder. This one felt even more personal. Last year, Teresa was complaining about losing all her recipes and wanted me to help her digitize them. She brought over this old, worn-out binder, and I spent an afternoon scanning pages for her and setting up a shared drive. I thought maybe it was a bonding moment. She was trusting me with something important to her. As I was organizing the files on her laptop, creating folders for soups, desserts, etc., I saw a folder that was already there. It was meticulously labeled Recetas Favoritas de Veronica. I swear the air in the room went cold. I clicked on it. I couldn't stop myself. It was full of scanned recipe cards, some of them in what was clearly Veronica's elegant, loopy, handwriting. Notes in the margins like, add extra cilantro for Mao. My heart was pounding in my ears. It was so intimate. It was a collection of things she knew my husband loved, curated by the woman who came before me, and preserved by the woman who wishes she was still here. I just quietly closed the folder, finished organizing the rest of her files, and acted like I'd never seen it. I didn't have the energy to start the fight I knew it would cause. He would just say she's sentimental, and I would look like the jealous, crazy wife. Again. So you see, each incident on its own is something I'm supposed to just ignore. But when you put them all together, it's not nostalgia. It's a campaign. It's a deliberate effort to make me feel like I'll never measure up, like I'm a temporary placeholder in a story where she's already decided on the heroine, and I was getting so tired of being the villain in a story I never asked to be in. Which brings me to my birthday, last weekend. The final straw. The thing that finally made me snap. We were hosting at our house. I'd spent the whole day cooking, making my favorite dishes, seco de chivo, some empanadas de viento. The house smelled amazing. Our friends were there, the music was good, and Mauricio was being so sweet, kissing my cheek every time he walked past me. For a few hours, I actually let myself relax. I let myself believe that today could just be about me, that the ghost could stay away for one damn afternoon. Then Teresa arrived. She was all smiles, holding a huge, pristine white cake box from her favorite bakery. She made a big show of it, placing it in the center of the dining table like an offering. "I brought your favorite, Ximenita," she chirped. My favorite is tres leches, and I knew she knew that, but I just smiled and thanked her. Whatever. It's the thought that counts, right? When it was time, everyone gathered around the table. The lights were dimmed, Mauricio lit the candles, and the whole room started singing Feliz Cumpleaños. I felt a genuine warmth spread through my chest. I closed my eyes, made a wish. I wished for peace, for God's sake, and blew out the candles. As everyone clapped, Teresa, beaming with pride, lifted the lid off the box. The room went silent. I don't mean quiet. I mean a dead, heavy, instant silence. The kind where you can suddenly hear the hum of the refrigerator. Written across the top of the beautiful passion fruit yellow cake, in perfect, elegant chocolate, script were the words. Feliz Veronica. My brain just short-circuited. I stared at it, trying to make the letters rearrange themselves into my own name. But they wouldn't. My breath caught in my throat, and I could feel the blood drain from my face. I looked up, and all of our friends were just staring, their smiles frozen, their eyes wide with secondhand horror. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. And Teresa? She didn't gasp. She didn't look mortified. She let out a light, tinkling, little laugh, like she just made a charming little slip-up at a garden party. She waved her hand dismissively and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Ay, que tonta! Oops! Habit!" Habit. A habit. Like forgetting to buy milk, not like writing another woman's name on your daughter-in-law's birthday cake. I looked at Mauricio, pleading with my eyes for him to do something, to say anything. But he was just frozen, his face pale, stuck somewhere between me and his mother. He just stood there, useless. The embarrassment was so intense it felt like a physical burn. I forced a smile that felt like it was cracking my face, grabbed a knife and said, "Well, cake is cake, right?" I just wanted the moment to be over. I started cutting the cake, my hand shaking so badly I was surprised I could hold the knife straight. The silence was deafening. And that's when she did it. As I was slicing through the V in Veronica's name, Teresa leaned in close, her perfume suffocating me. She whispered, just loud enough for me and Mauricio to hear, her voice dripping with that fake sweet poison she does so well. Well, she said with a tiny little smirk, she always liked maracuya. And that was it. Something inside me just shattered. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a habit. It was a message, delivered with a smile and a whisper. The cake wasn't for me. The flavor wasn't for me. None of this was for me. It was for the ghost. And in that moment, all the hurt and all the years of biting my tongue curdled into a cold, hard rage. I set the knife down, looked at her, and I knew I was done being quiet. I was done ignoring it. I was going to burn her little ghost world to the ground. I just stood there for a second, the sticky handle of the cake knife still in my hand. The heat that had flooded my cheeks wasn't embarrassment anymore. It was something else. It was fuel. The tears that had been prickling the back of my eyes just evaporated, boiled away by this sudden, white-hot clarity. I wasn't hurt. I was done being hurt. I was angry. She wanted a reaction, a scene. She wanted me to cry and run to my room so she could play the concerned ML, patting my husband's arm and saying, "Oh dear, she's always so sensitive." I wasn't going to give her that. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to show her and everyone else exactly what she was. My entire body went calm. The shaking in my hands stopped. With a deliberate, steady motion, I placed the knife down, on the plate, right next to the smeared chocolate letters of Veronica's name. I looked straight at Teresa, right into her eyes, and I saw a flicker of confusion in them. This wasn't the reaction she'd planned for. I gave her a small, tight smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Excuse me for a moment," I said, and my voice was so even it scared me. "I just remembered something I need for the party." I turned and walked away from the table without another word. I could feel every single person's eyes, on my back. I could hear someone's uncle trying to clear his throat and make a joke to break the tension. I walked right past Mauricio, who was still standing there like a statue, his mouth slightly open. I didn't even look at him. He had his chance to be my husband, and he chose to be his mother's son. I went straight to our little office, shut the door, and leaned against it, my heart hammering against my ribs not with fear, but with adrenaline. A plan was forming in my mind, sharp and clear, and brutal. She loved her habits. She loved her memories. Fine. We were all going to take a little trip down memory lane together. I was going to hold up a mirror so big and so bright that she wouldn't be able to ignore her own reflection. I grabbed my laptop, my fingers flying across the keyboard as I sat down. The glow of the screen lit up my face in the dim room. First, Facebook. It took me less than 30 seconds to find her profile, to find the public album titled Memorias. I started taking screenshots. Mauricio and Veronica on the beach, her head on his shoulder. Click. Screenshot saved. The family Christmas photo, with Veronica right there next to my email, beaming. Click. Then I scrolled to the comments. The one from last month on an 8-year-old picture. Que lindos. I remember this beautiful day. Click. Screenshot saved. Timestamp clearly visible. Next, the shared drive. My hands were moving so fast, so efficiently. I navigated to the folder I wasn't supposed to have seen. Recetas favoritas de Veronica. I opened it, the neat list of files appearing on my screen. Fritada. Seco de pollo. A scanned, handwritten recipe for morocho, with a little note in the corner. Add extra cilantro for Mao. Click. A screenshot of the whole folder, the title clear as day. With every click of the mouse, I felt a piece of my own power returning. For years, she had made me feel small and invisible with these little cuts. But now, seeing them all together, collected as cold, hard evidence on my screen, they weren't little anymore. They were a A meticulous, calculated campaign. This wasn't about revenge, not really. It was about proof. It was about creating a file of undeniable truth that no one, not Mauricio, not our friends, not even she, could dismiss as me being too sensitive. I was just gathering the facts. I was simply going to present her with her own work. I had everything I needed. The social media shrine, the recipe folder. It was more than enough to prove my point. But as I was about to close her Facebook page, a little green dot popped up in the corner. Messenger. My stomach twisted. I remembered about 6 months ago she couldn't figure out how to video call my sister-in-law and had used my laptop. She'd never logged out. It was a complete invasion of privacy, I know, but at that point I felt like my entire marriage was being invaded. I clicked. And there it was, right at the top of her recent conversations. A name I knew all too well, but had never seen in my Mills Messenger before. Veronica. My blood ran cold. I felt a sick, morbid curiosity take over, and I opened the chat. The messages were recent, from last week. My hands started to shake again, but this time it wasn't from anger. It was from a deep, chilling horror. Teresa had sent her photos, not old photos. Photos of my house. A picture of the new patio furniture Mauricio and I had spent a whole weekend building. A picture of the jacaranda tree in my garden that I was so proud of. I felt dizzy, like I was going to throw up. It felt like she had let a stranger wander through my home while I was sleeping. Underneath the photo of my garden, there was a message from my MIL. I read it once, twice, my brain refusing to process it. They're hitting a rough patch, I can tell. He never looks happy anymore. You should visit when you're back in town, surprise him. It might be good for him to see you. The air left my lungs in a single, silent gasp. This wasn't passive aggression. This wasn't living in the past. This was active, intentional sabotage. She wasn't just honoring a memory. She was trying to orchestrate a reunion. In my home. In my marriage. The final screenshot I took was of that conversation. My hands were steady now. The rage was back, but it was different. It was cold, sharp, and absolute. I walked back into the living room. The party had tried to restart, but the energy was dead. People were talking in hushed tones, stealing glances at the mangled cake. I walked over to the TV and started hooking up my laptop. Mauricio saw me and started to walk over, a confused, pleading look on his face. Shime, what are you doing? Just a little surprise, I said, my voice dangerously calm. A little trip down memory lane for my birthday. A few people clapped half-heartedly, probably relieved that someone was trying to move on. I turned off the lights with the remote. The TV screen flickered to life, illuminating the tense faces around the room. The first slide appeared, big and white, with simple black text. It read, "Oops, habit." A confused murmur went through the room. Teresa, who had been trying to act nonchalant, froze with a piece of cake halfway to her mouth. I clicked to the next slide. It was the screenshot of her public Facebook album, Memorias, filled with pictures of Mauricio and Veronica. The next slide was a close-up of her recent comment. I remember this beautiful day, with the timestamp from last month clearly, visible. I heard someone gasp. Click. The next slide. A screenshot of the folder on her shared drive. Recetas favoritas de Veronica. I could see my SEL staring at her mother, her mouth hanging open. Teresa's face was starting to lose its color. She put her fork down. Jimena, this is not the time or the place, she said, her voice tight. Oh, I think it's the perfect time and place, I replied, not taking my eyes off the screen. I clicked one last time. The final slide filled the TV. It was the screenshot of her Messenger conversation, the photos of my house, and her words, huge and undeniable on the screen for everyone to read. They're hitting a rough patch. You should visit when you're back in town. The silence that followed was absolute. It was heavier, more suffocating than before. It was the silence of a tomb. Teresa's face had gone from pale to a waxy, sickly gray. She looked like she was going to be sick. Then finally, a sound. It was Mauricio. He had been silent this whole time, just staring at the screen. He stood up from his chair so fast it scraped loudly against the floor. He was shaking, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring directly at his mother, and for the first time I saw an anger in his eyes that was truly terrifying. "This," he said, his voice low and trembling with a rage I had never heard from him before, "this ends now." But seeing him finally snap, seeing that fire in his eyes, it doesn't tell the whole story. The truth is, that moment almost didn't happen. Because just 10 minutes before I walked out there and connected my laptop to the TV, he was in that little office with me, begging me not to do it. After I'd gathered all the screenshots, I heard the office door creak open. It was Mauricio. His face was a mess of confusion and worry. The fake party sounds from the other room seemed a million miles away. "Shimi, what's going on?" he whispered, closing the door behind him. "People are starting to get weirded out. What are you doing in here?" I just turned the laptop screen towards him. I didn't say a word. I let him see it all for himself. I watched his eyes scan across the Facebook photos, the recipe folder, and then land on the Messenger conversation. I saw the exact moment he read the words, "You should visit when you're back in town." The color drained from his face. He actually stumbled back a step and had to lean against the wall like he'd been physically hit. "Mama?" he breathed out, his voice thick with disbelief. "She's trying to break us up, Mauricio," I said, my voice low and hard. "This whole time, it was never just about her being sentimental. She is actively trying to sabotage our marriage." He ran a hand through his hair, looking at the screen and then at me, completely lost. "Okay," he said, his voice shaky. "Okay, this is bad. We'll talk to her. After everyone leaves, I'll tell her this is unacceptable. I'll handle it." "No," I said, and I started gathering the HDMI cable. "No more handling it later. No more quiet little chats where she can twist everything around and make me out to be the crazy, jealous wife. We're handling it now. Out there." That's when the panic set in on his face. "What?" "No, Jimena, mi amor, please," he said, coming towards me and putting his hands on my arms. His touch was gentle, pleading. "Don't do this. You can't do this. This will be a catastrophe. It'll humiliate her. It'll tear the whole family apart." For a second, I almost caved. His eyes were so desperate. I could see the genuine terror in them, the terror of a man who has spent his entire life avoiding confrontation. A little voice in my head screamed at me, asking me what the hell I was doing. Was I really about to publicly humiliate a 60-year-old woman at my own birthday party? Was I stooping to her level? Was I becoming just as cruel and manipulative as she was? The knot in my stomach tightened. Maybe Mauricio was right. Maybe there was a better way, a more dignified way. "She's my mother, Jime," he whispered, his voice cracking a little. He hates this. He hates being caught in the middle, and I know he carries this weird guilt about how things ended with Veronica. He's told me before it was messy, that he broke her heart, and I think a part of him feels like his mother's obsession is some kind of penance he has to pay. But then I looked down at my laptop screen, at the picture of my garden that I spend hours in, the only place I feel truly at peace, sent to another woman as an invitation. The words, "They're hitting a rough patch," burned on the screen. My resolve hardened again. I pulled away from his grasp. "And I'm your wife," I said, my voice shaking with a fresh wave of anger. "When has talking to her privately ever worked, Mao? Every single time I've tried to bring up how she makes me feel, you tell me to ignore it. She tells me I'm being too sensitive. She gaslights me, and you let her. This needs to be brought into the light. It needs witnesses. I need her to not be able to deny it or twist it or whisper her way out of it. I'm done being the secret crazy person. Tonight, everyone sees the truth." He just stared at me, defeated. He knew I was right. He knew every private attempt had failed. The discovery of those messages had changed the game. This wasn't a family squabble anymore. It was a betrayal. He opened his mouth to say something else, then just closed it and shook, his head looking utterly broken. "I can't stop you, can I?" he said quietly. No, I said. I picked up my laptop and walked towards the door. But you can stand with me. I left him there in the office. And honestly, walking back into that living room, I had no idea what he would do. But as I stood there watching my slideshow of horrors play out, watching my mail's world crumble, I felt his presence behind me. And when he finally stood up and said, "This ends now," I knew I had made the right choice. I had to force his hand. I had to create a situation so undeniable that he had no choice but to finally pick a side. After Mauricio said that, the air in the room was so thick you could have cut it with the cake knife. Teresa just stared at him, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. All that smugness, all that sweet poison, it was gone. She looked small. She tried to say something, sputtering my name, then his, but no real words came out. She looked around at the faces of our friends and family, and for the first time, she saw no allies. No one was rushing to comfort her. They had all seen the proof on the TV screen. Without another word, she stood up, her movements jerky and stiff. She walked over to the table, grabbed the half-cut, mangled cake with Veronica's name smeared across it, and just walked out. She didn't even get her purse. The front door clicked shut behind her, and the silence she left behind was somehow even louder. The party died right then and there. People made their excuses, giving me these awkward, pitying hugs on their way out. No one knew what to say. An hour later, it was just me and Mauricio, standing in the wreckage of my birthday party, surrounded by dirty plates and half-empty glasses. He finally turned to me, and his eyes were full of a pain I'd never seen before. "I am so sorry, Sime," he said, and his voice was raw. "I'm sorry I let it get this far. I saw the little things, and I told myself they were just little things. I never wanted to believe she was capable of this." We talked for hours that night. He told me he was going to call her the next day and lay down the law. No more contact with Veronica, period. He was going to block her on his mother's phone himself if he had to. No more comparisons, no more stories, no more bringing her up. Ever. And he told her she wasn't welcome in our home again until she could give me a real, sincere apology. Not for the cake, but for everything. The next morning, my phone buzzed. It was a long text from Teresa. It wasn't warm, but it was direct. She apologized for her prolonged and inappropriate fixation on Mauricio's past. She admitted to intentionally causing me pain and said her actions were inexcusable. She promised to respect our marriage and to never mention Veronica's name in my presence again. It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. About an hour after that, the doorbell rang. It was a delivery from the same bakery. Inside was another cake. It was passion fruit. And written across the top in perfect, clean chocolate script was my name. Jimena. Seeing it there, so clearly, so correctly, I actually started to cry. Not sad tears, but tears of pure, unadulterated relief. It felt like I could finally breathe in my own home. Things are quiet now. The past only haunts a house if someone keeps propping open the door. We finally shut it, with the lock turned from the inside. The boundary is firm, and for the first time, it feels like our home is truly ours. But even with this outcome, I still lie awake at night replaying that slideshow in my head. Mauricio still thinks I went too far, that a public humiliation wasn't the answer, even if it worked. He supports the new boundaries, but he hates how we got here, and a part of me agrees with him. I exposed her, and it was brutal. I saw the shame on her face, and I can't say it felt good. It just felt necessary. So, Reddit, I have to ask, AETA for publicly exposing my mother-in-law's toxic habits with a slideshow at my own birthday party instead of trying to handle it privately one more time.